In 2013, we got the start of the DC Extended Universe, and our last Superman film, Man of Steel, is directed by Zack Snyder, starring Henry Cavill, Amy Adams, Michael Shannon, and Russell Crowe. This movie is about a young alien who escapes the destruction of his home world to Earth, but his peace is threatened by other survivors from his home planet who come to invade Earth. So we're going to talk about this movie and help you decide whether or not it's the right one to watch as a Christian right now. Hey friends, welcome to the channel. I'm your host Tim, and we exist to help Christians live in the world, not of the world, by utilizing our convictions in the movies and shows we watch. Man of Steel is rated PG-13 for some intense sequences of sci-fi violence and action, destruction, and some brief language. So we're going to dive into any convictions you may have that may prevent you from watching this movie, any theological themes present within the film, and wrap it up with my own personal thoughts on this movie. Without further ado, let's dive into the Christian Conviction Meter. If this is your first time here, the Christian Conviction Meter is a series of 5 convictions that may distract or hinder your relationship with Jesus. Ultimately, it's a resource to help you figure out whether or not Man of Steel aligns with the convictions God has given you. Starting things off with violence and gore here, there is a decent amount of death throughout the entire film. It can get pretty brutal at times with the amount of just people dying. Plus, on top of that, there is a lot of destruction, explosions, chaos throughout the entire film. I mean, you're talking about people who have extreme powers, and so that let loose on a city causes widespread destruction, which we see in this film. Plus, on top of that, there also is some hand-to-hand combat contained within this film as well. And there also is a character who unfortunately loses his life by the snap of a neck. So those are things to kind of keep in mind. In terms of actual gore within this film, though, there is a moment where a character is coughing up blood, and there also is just some scratches, scrapes, cuts, bruises, some of that stuff, whether from the destruction of what's going on or just due to events and action that takes place within this film. It's a very action-heavy film. It is going to be a 4 out of 5 in this category. Our next category is lust, and in terms of actual lustful intentions here, there is a few shirtless scenes done by Henry Cavill. The biggest thing to note though here with some nudity here is that very early on in the film, we see a baby Superman not wearing any clothes. He's transported into his like little cradle ship thing, but that is a part of the movie. To be on the safe side for both of these things, we're going to give this a 2 out of 5 in this category. Our next category is substances, and while there is no explicit drug use within the film, there is the use of beer in the film to drink or pour on somebody, but it is a part of this movie. It's not like an in-your-face sort of thing, and there is no drunkenness contained within the film. It's just a few drinks here and there. We're going to give this a 1 out of 5 in this category. Our next category is profanity, and the words used within this movie include hell, the DA word, DI word, and the SH word. All of these things in mind, it's going to be a 3 out of 5 in this category. Our last subject is intense/horror scenes. This is not a horror movie, which means there are no horror elements contained within the movie. That being said, this movie is absolutely intense in every sense of the word. It starts off pretty much with a all-out war upon Krypton, and so destruction, chaos, blaster fire, all of that is contained within the movie. On top of that, I did mention earlier in the violence and gore portion, there is plenty of explosions and destruction that takes place within this movie. I mean, it is insane the amount of devastation, near close to like you watching a giant supernatural storm movie, like one of those type of films, like a Twister or a Geostorm type of thing, with the amount of destruction that takes place within this movie. There is also some scenes of just some fire as well, just due to explosions, and there's just a lot of chaos within the film. Another thing to note here is that obviously the snapping of the neck can be pretty intense, especially given the nature of the scene that is presented with some people being threatened in this scene as well. So it is pretty intense there. There also is a pretty dark scene of a character sinking into a pile of bones a pile of remains. It is pretty scary. It's all bone. There is no sort of flesh attached to any of it. It's not super gruesome, but it is pretty scary, especially for anyone who may be a younger viewer watching this film. It's going to be a 4 out of 5 in this category. So our grand total on the conviction meter is going to be a 14 out of 25. There's a decent amount contained within this film. Of course, the two biggest categories here is your violence and gore, as well as your intense sequences. So if you struggle in any of the areas we talked about, or you feel uncomfortable that this may not be the right thing for you to watch, don't worry about watching the movie. Remember, your relationship with Jesus is more important than any film you are going to watch or even miss. So make sure to keep along with your convictions, keep pursuing after Jesus. And that leads us beautifully into our next topic as we dive into some theological themes that are present within Man of Steel. And there really is two scenes here that do tie back to Christianity. In a scene with his father, Jonathan Kent, Clark asks why God made him this way, in reference to why he is different. And it's a pretty neat question that's a part of this movie, but there really isn't like a biblical answer that's given. There also is a scene later on in the film where Clark is in a chapel and he is talking to the priest that is there. And so those are the only two things that really are kind of Christian elements within the film. There's nothing explicitly about Jesus, Christianity, the Bible, the church, none of that. There is also, of course, the whole idea that like Superman is like a god amongst men, but that's also talked about more so in later films rather than just this one specifically. So with that wrapped up, let's dive into what I think of Man of Steel. And if there's one word to describe this movie, it is epic. The scale of this movie is of epic proportions. The action scenes are epic. It also has an epic score by Hans Zimmer. Easily, I would say that's probably the best part of this movie is his score. It's absolutely fantastic. Flight, chef's kiss. But it also has some very interesting choices that are a part of this movie. Kicking off with our cast, Henry Cavill, I think, is a really enjoyable Superman. I like his performance. He's very stoic in this one, and it's not lighthearted like we've seen in other adaptations of the Superman character, but I still enjoy his performance nonetheless. I think he looks fantastic as Superman. I really love that Russell Crowe is his father, his actual true father. I think that's just fantastic casting. I'm also a big fan of Russell Crowe. Amy Adams, I think, plays a pretty good Lois Lane, although in terms of the top bill of the cast, I think she's probably the weakest among here. But also along with that, I do enjoy Michael Shannon as General Zod. I think he just captures the anger and resentment that the character kind of brings in this film. I think he does a really solid job here. But there also is, of course, the casting of Kevin Costner as Jonathan Kent. And I do like the casting. I like Kevin Costner as an actor. I'm not the biggest fan, though, of the fact that he seems way too overprotective. I understand that you want to have a balance of, making sure and keeping Clark safe from the world when he's not ready. But also at the same time, too, I don't get the sense from the script that Jonathan is supportive of Clark. That, yes, he is different and he's made for greater purposes. It's talked about after, later in the film, when Jonathan isn't around to say those things. I think that is missing from this film. They make some definitely bold choices, and this is one of them. I personally, not the strongest fan of it. I don't mind it, but it's not my favorite part of the movie. And speaking of that sort, the story in and of itself is okay. It's not phenomenal. I'm not crazy about this story personally. I mean, it's a solid origin, but it's also an origin we've seen a few times. And this one doesn't, I think, carry the same hopefulness that others do. And I understand that is very much the point with this iteration of Superman. And one thing I will say, and I do give the movie props for, they do try to engage the film more on its action rather than its story. although I feel it really does cost it, especially with the lack of having some really solid character moments here. I wish we spent more time with just Superman discovering who he needs to be. I feel like it was fine, but it wasn't to the next step or the next level that I think it should have been. But again, the action here is really, really solid, and overall, I do enjoy it. I do think it goes a little over the top, but that is Zack Snyder's style, and so that really doesn't surprise me, but I still do enjoy the action here. They also make a very bold choice with Superman at the end of the film. If you've seen the movie, you know the choice. I'm keeping away just for spoilers. I understand what they were trying to go for. I still don't like it. It doesn't align with who Superman is as a character. Does it make sense story-wise? Kind of. The other challenge here is that the full vision of the DCEU never got fully completed, so we don't see how this kind of changes Clark, and we don't see how it changes Superman over time, and that sucks, but that's looking in retrospect rather than in this film. Still not the biggest fan of the decision. So overall, it's a pretty enjoyable movie. I know I may have talked a bit more on its flaws than I would say its pros, but it's still an enjoyable film. It's one I haven't watched recently and rewatched it in preparation for this review, but also in preparation for the upcoming Superman film. There's still things I like about the movie. I think I'm more cynical now than I was then. When I first watched the film, just because watching it in the theater was really just something. It was really, really cool. Again, that Hans Zimmer score is fantastic, but it still is pretty enjoyable. Do I disagree with the film in some areas? Absolutely. And obviously, this is very much a Zack Snyder film through and through, in the action, in the color saturation, or rather desaturation, and just some of those elements are very much what make this a Zack Snyder film. So in that regard, I do appreciate that it is very much his film and his interpretation of the character. It's still fun to see Henry Cavill don the red cape. I do enjoy this movie. I'm giving it an 8.3 out of 10. Like I said, I like this movie. I know I'm talking a lot about the flaws, but I do like it. I think it's fun and overall a enjoyable film. So it's a 14 out of 25 on the conviction meter. It's an 8.3 out of 10 in our review. Those are my thoughts, so let me know yours down in the comments below. Let's chat all things about Man of Steel in the comments. Just keep it respectful is all I ask, especially in preparation for this new Superman film and the new DC universe, which I am quite excited about. While you're down there, consider hitting that like and subscribing for us, joining our community here on YouTube. It just helps us send us out until the algorithm allows us to reach more Christians so that they can utilize their convictions in the movies and shows they watch to ultimately follow Jesus better. Thank you so much for taking time out of your day to spend time with us here. We truly appreciate it. It means the absolute world to us. Before you go, there's a few video recommendations that YouTube is suggesting to you. I have no clue what they picked. Hopefully they nailed it for you. We'll see you all in the next one.